calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
In Venezuela,
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm, of course, your host, Jeff Walder. Welcome. It's Around the Nation. So, we're going to do some stories. It's Monday. Yes, I have a case of the Mondays, which apparently is why my brain is not working very well. But don't worry, we're going to get through some stories. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about the Trump-DeSantis infighting that's going on. Yes, the Republican primary, more fun on that, including Meatball Ron. Huh. Yeah. Meatball Ron.
It's not a salami sandwich.
Okay. So that's fun. And then, of course, there's some hypocrisy from DeSantis, according to a new report, on guns. Ooh, interesting. I always love Republican hypocrisy. Then we have Steve Bannon stiffing his lawyers. Hilarious. And then Kari Lake is going to say ridiculously stupid things, as usual. And then we're going to get to the Ohio rail disaster. So I'm going to do a little bit of an overview on that. And we're going to talk about why nobody's done anything and why, and of course, why no one will do anything about it in the Biden administration. Give you a hint, has to do with money in politics. Oh, okay, anyway, so we're going to do it, have some fun, do some serious stuff. Please like and share the stream. With that said, let's dive into it. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Fun times. It appears that former President Donald Trump is trying out new nicknames for his possible 2024 rival, Ron DeSantis. Apparently, Ron DeSanctimonious. Not enough. Not good enough. Great. All right, so now this is according to a New York Times report by Maggie Haberman and Michael Bender. Trump apparently is experimenting with harsher attacks against the governor. They called him smears for some reason. Well, I mean, it's only a smear if it's not true. Since November, despite the criticism he faced at the time, Mr. Trump has periodically hit out at his potential rival, albeit to a relatively small audience. Interesting. Now, he posted his most recent innuendo about the governor on Truth Social, where he has just under 5 million followers. That is where he insinuated that Ron DeSantis is a groomer. So, that goes back to a picture. We've known about it for a while, where he was partying with high school girls when he was a teacher. He was a teacher for 1 year, and he would party with the high school students. That's weird. And it's when he was in his mid-20s. Okay, super weird, a little creepy. But at the same time, we don't have any evidence that he had actually groomed or slept with high school girls. And so you're going to throw out that groomer insinuation without any evidence. I guess that counts as a smear. All right. So I'm being totally fair, by the way, and I'm not somebody who's a fan of Ron DeSantis at all. That said, aside from the groomer smear, he's coming up with nicknames, and they're pretty bad. So let's just do that. Shut down Ron. That's one of the nicknames.
Please clap.
I don't know about that one. So there's shut down Ron, and of course that's an actual false attack, by the way. Ron DeSantis had opened up Florida earlier than the majority of other states. And this has to do with COVID lockdowns. And so that's just patently wrong. And not that Republicans care about facts, of course. And the other thing is Meatball Ron. I don't know. Apparently, at least according to the report, it makes it sound like he thinks that Ron somehow resembles a meatball.
It's not a salami sandwich.
I don't know. I don't know.
Peachtree dish.
I really don't.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
We're just gonna do all this food stuff, okay? I don't quite get it. It's Meatball Ron. You might want to go back to the drawing board on that one, okay? But here's the thing. So that's what Trump does. He comes out and he makes up nicknames. I mean, some of them are actually kind of entertaining. Like, for example, Little Marco, when he's able to emasculate Marco Rubio. That's fun. But has he lost it with Ron DeSantis? Has he lost the magic? I don't know. Maybe he'll come up with something slightly more interesting or clever than Meatball Ron. Because again, I just don't get it. I don't understand. A lot of people like meatballs. What's wrong with a meatball? I don't know. But what I do know is if Ron DeSantis, if he continues to not hit back at Trump, well, there's going to be some problems. Okay? And again, his response to the previous smear, the allegation, the insinuation that he's a groomer, which, by the way, I enjoy because it's the chickens coming home to roost. Yes, I know it's false. But then again, Ron DeSantis has been falsely defaming teachers and LGBTQ people in Florida as groomers for all this time. So it's kind of funny to see it, his weapon be turned back against him. Fun. I like it. That said, he is trying to do this thing. Whereas, he'll come out and say things, I am too busy delivering the results for the people of Florida. That's in response to being called a literal pedophile. You ain't got balls, son. That's what that tells me. Or you're not going to swing back. You're going to fight back. Well, that just means you're a
Beta male.
not going to fight back. What are you doing, Ron? What are you doing? No, hit him back. It's not like there isn't plenty of material. There is. No, he's choosing not to fight back because he's afraid. He's afraid. And look, everyone who decided to do this route of I'm staying above the fray, I'm not going to engage Donald Trump in these childish name-calling games. No, I'm going to stand above. What happened to them? Oh, right, they got obliterated one by one. One of them being, of course,
Please clap.
Jeb Bush. I know we all thought, and at least not all of us, but a lot of us thought back in 2016 Donald Trump would never get the nomination. It'd be somebody like Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio. And then Donald Trump came around and he Donkey Konged them all in the head, and he became the nominee. It's antics like this that got him the Republican nomination. And so Ron DeSantis, what he's doing is the same thing that all the other people who were against Trump tried to do and failed. So that doesn't necessarily mean that, of course, Trump has it in the bag or that Ron DeSantis is going to lose. Again, the primary is very, very far away. But at the same time, you're going to try the same strategy that failed the last time. I don't know if that's going to be successful. Just saying. No, look, here's the thing. The only person that I believe is going to be able to dethrone somebody like Donald Trump is someone like Donald Trump. That's if Trump doesn't dethrone himself first. Okay. And by the way, this is going back to the article where a lot of Republicans behind the scenes are like, oh, the only way we're going to get rid of this guy is when he keels over. That's it. We're just waiting for him to die. Well, okay. You're going to have to probably wait a while then, which is fine by me. If they keep losing, that's all I care about. I'm not in it for Republicans to win, but at the same time, if they do try to find someone to take on Donald Trump, well, they're going to have to be entertaining, for one. They're going to have to be effective at fighting the culture wars. Again, Ron DeSantis is effective at fighting the culture wars, but he's not entertaining at all. He's got no charisma. And so, yes, you do have some pieces of what would be, something to take on Donald Trump, but no one candidate has all of those different things combined. And by the way, some of the things, I should say a lot of the traits you would need to take down Donald Trump in a Republican primary, by the way, I'm just talking Republican primary, are things that would make them lose a general election as well. So let's be fair about that. But so, look, none of the Republicans that we have in the GOP establishment are going to be able to take on Donald Trump. I don't see anybody in the Republican Party that comes close, that can actually get the MAGA base the same way that Trump has. And so, look, they've got to be charismatic. They've got to be at least rhetoric-wise, a populist, somebody who's going to claim to take on the establishment, who are against the so-called corporations and the culture wars, and of course, strength. Now, of course, it's not traditional strength. In their minds, and I'm talking Republicans here, strength is being able to humiliate their opponents. Democrats, for example, right? But also people like Mitch McConnell. They have to be out there and humiliate them and to get those feel-good wins, And that's what it also comes down to, a win. They're looking for someone who will win. Now, what counts against Donald Trump is the fact that Donald Trump's a two-time loser. He lost the presidency in 2020 and hasn't stopped bitching and complaining about it. Voter fraud, there's so much fraud everywhere. They stole it from me. Okay, that's whining and crying, and that, of course, makes you look super weak. Whereas Ron DeSantis, his advantage is, well, he won his election, but again, this is in Florida. But he doesn't have any of that charisma, doesn't have anything like that, but he does have culture war wins. So, look, this is interesting. I think that if Trump dropped the crying about the election, the crying, whining, bitching, complaining, etc., and went full on the attack, like he did back in 2016, and said, I'm the outsider, Republican establishment is terrible, political corruption is bad, and I'm going to fight against that, and then tied Ron DeSantis into all of that, I think that would be an effective attack. Again, DeSantis is a member of the Republican establishment. He is being backed by the billionaires. You have the Koch organization who's looking at funding anyone who challenges Donald Trump. Rupert Murdoch, of course, is against him. That means Fox News and other Murdoch-owned publications are going to be attacking him as well, and already are. And of course, with that, Trump could make the accusation that Ron DeSantis is another establishment stooge. Now, add in the fact, by the way, now that Donald Trump's back on Facebook. He's back on Facebook, and has the option of going back on Twitter. So over the past couple of years, he has not been on those social media platforms, which has limited his reach. Now he's coming back and hasn't been back on Twitter yet. But once and he's not going to be able to help himself. He's back on Twitter. Uh-oh. Worry for Ron DeSantis, except I don't, because I don't care. All right, so now again, DeSantis has a lot of things that are working against him as well that Donald Trump could try to capitalize on. For example, DeSantis wanted to cut Medicare and Social Security. Now, Donald Trump said the same thing, but then he had also had previous positions where he's like, no, Medicare and Social Security, don't touch it. So Trump has material to work with, DeSantis has material to work with. And the thing is, how long is Ron DeSantis going to stay or attempt to stay above the fray? I don't think he's going to be able to do it for that long. I mean, yes, right now, sure. But what about in the debate stage? That's where Donald Trump is most devastating. And again, a lot of the debates are all performative. So if we're talking performance, well, you're going to obviously want to see the showman in action. And that's what Donald Trump is. He's the showman, and it's very, very likely that he's going to crush Ron DeSantis in a debate, just optics-wise. Because it's not going to be about policy. It's going to be about who's going to lob the most successful attacks and who's going to own who. And I guarantee you, Donald Trump is not going to be there to play patty cakes. So we're going to see then if Meatball Ron has any fight in him, or if he's going to let the media fight for him, and if Republican voters are going to, what they're going to do, I guess, how they're going to receive all of this stuff, and if they're going to go and back Trump, or if they're going to try to back someone like DeSantis, or if a new challenger appears that actually has charisma and is going to be able to take on Trump by being Trumpy. It's going to be very, very interesting here. But these nicknames, you might want to do a little bit better on this. But yeah, let him fight. Let him fight. Trump is a bottomless buffoon. The spineless won't stand a chance. See, the spineless. There you go. That one. Member of our audience already came up with a much better nickname for Ron DeSantis. The spineless. Come on. Step it up. Step it up, Trump. Let's go. Let's go.
Can't let that happen.
Okay. All right. I say let the Trump tear the Republican Party apart. They earned it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be eating the popcorn. But I still wanted to do a fair analysis of it. Sadness. Oh, that's a good one, too. But I don't know. I still like the spineless. That's pretty fun. All right. Move on. Let's go to more something that actually fits with Ron DeSpineless. Gun bans for me, but not for thee, apparently says Ron DeSantis. Look, this is a case of standard Republican hypocrisy. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wanted to create a safe space for himself free of guns at his election night party. So now emails obtained by the Washington Post reveal the sensitive request made by DeSantis' campaign to city officials in Tampa prior to a November 8th election party. DeSantis, who received a 100% rating from the National Rifle Association last year, did not want any guns at his event. Really? He also didn't want anyone to know that it was his decision, according to these emails. Oh, I love it. Wait, I thought, guys, didn't guns make everyone safer? Isn't that the argument? Guns. What's DeSantis worried about? More guns equals more safety, right? Now, apparently, he was worried about his image because he didn't want to. Well, it was one of the things I guess he was worried about. He wanted to shift the blame for wanting to have no guns at his election party to someone else. What? No, ban gun? No, I wouldn't ban guns. No, I would bring my guns, but I was banned. And by the way, I have many guns. I have the best guns. I have the biggest guns. Yes, tremendous guns. But you're not allowed to see them. Right. Okay. So now DeSantis / his campaign will not tell their attendees, the email, that they are not permitted to carry because of the political optics. Chase Finch, the Tampa Convention Center Safety and Security Manager, said in an October 28th email to other city officials about the request from the DeSantis campaign. Ooh, do I love the smell of hypocrisy in the morning? Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. In another email to city employees, Finch said, "It sounds like they want us to say it's our policy to disallow firearms within the event space if anyone asks." Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't Ron DeSantis at all. No, it was our policy. That's right. Because Ron DeSantis loves guns. He loves guns more than anyone else. In fact, he loves guns so much, right, that he wanted to marry one. Okay, that's a terrible joke. I don't know. He loves guns. That's all I'm trying to say. Oh, it's terrible. Okay. I know. So now Finch received a response back less than a half hour later from Nicole Travis, the city's Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. "We are not saying anything about concealed carry. That is the responsibility of the renter. We followed state statute about that permits concealed carry." Travis then sent a follow-up according to a copy of the emails obtained by the Tampa Bay Times. "Just be clear, we are not signing this form," Travis said. We're not taking the blame for this one. Okay, that makes sense. Now, wait a minute. Ron, I thought you were supposed to be a tough guy. That's kind of pathetic. Again, you love your guns, right? Freedom. The Second Amendment. Now it's a freedom. Guns. Guns everywhere. Oh, are there going to be guns near me? Ban them, ban them, ban them. Ban them now. Ban them now. But do not, under any circumstances, tell anyone that I was scared of the guns. Because I love guns. Beta male. Look, I think this is pretty par for the course, honestly, for elected Republicans and generally elected officials, in general. And look, the reason I say that is there are psychos out there. Okay, so that's why it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't bother me at all that there are people in elected officials, or elected positions that are like, yeah, of course, my events, we shouldn't have guns allowed in here. Now, how many politicians get shot at or get threatened? When you're talking, especially Democratic politicians, a ton. But I'm saying, it's not the only people that get threatened, of course. There are Republican politicians that get threatened as well. And so I understand the need for places where, yes, you would ban randos from coming in there and carrying weapons. That makes sense. Now, the hypocrisy, of course, comes from people who are like, oh, no, guns. I'm going to deregulate guns. I'm going propagate more guns. I'm going to loosen gun laws when I'm in office because I love guns. The Tree of Liberty, yeah, freedom, Second Amendment. But when it comes to them, when they might be in the hint of danger, well, that's when they say, well, guns. No, I don't want guns. None. Nope. And so, look, what makes it even more egregious for some of these Republican politicians is they take NRA/gun manufacturer blood money, and that's what it is. They go out and they loosen those gun laws, which lead to more mass shootings. That leads to more gun purchases because people are scared and want to protect themselves because there's so many deranged people with guns out there. And at the end of the day, the people who win out are the corrupt, disgusting politicians who take the money, and the gun manufacturers, who every time there is a mass shooting, they see a windfall of gun sales. That's it. But again, they go out and say, Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. But when it's their ass, no guns here. I might be in danger. Don't ever put me in danger. And then shift the blame, or attempt to shift the blame, for trying to ban those guns to keep them safe to someone else over politics. This is how you know that Ron DeSantis is your standard slimy, dirty Republican politician. Just another good example of it. Okay. Moving on. It appears that Steve Bannon is, unsurprisingly, a deadbeat. At least when it comes to paying his lawyers. According to 3 sources who spoke exclusively to the Daily Beast, Bannon, Trump's former advisor and, of course, out-and-out white nationalist, racist, he has not been paying his lawyers. Even the ones who spent years defending him against this onslaught of criminal charges. So now those lawyers, again, they're pretty much haven't stuck around, leaving him scrambling to find new lawyers, new attorneys, as he faces a looming trial over the over the Rebuild the Wall scam. That was, of course, the fundraiser to try to build a wall on the southern border to keep out Mexicans. Wow. And of course, look, that project was massively doomed to fail because it wasn't public land. They would have to get, permission from property rights holders. And it turns out a lot of people who own property down there are like, no, you're not going to build a wall on my land. Get lost. Get out of here. In fact, the Trump administration had considered using eminent domain to literally steal land from people in order to build his own ridiculous, stupid wall, which of course doesn't work. So that said, Steve Bannon and Brian Kolfage, I think, or there's a bunch of different sayings of his name, pronunciations, whatever. They did this fundraiser, We Build the Wall, and raised tons and tons of money. And of course, they pocketed the money, a lot of it. And so they pocketed the money, lived very, very lavish lifestyles, and got busted. And now Kolfage is in prison, whereas Bannon, he's getting his day in court. So now Bannon's refusal to fully pay his bills, getting back to the story, stunned some of his closer advisors who have stuck around for years. One associate said this, quote, "I don't have any reason to believe he doesn't have money." Is this a surprise to me? No, it's not. He's, again, scamming people. He's been a scam artist for a very, very long time. Scamming Trump's own supporters. And was arrested. By the way, he's a recipient of Chinese billionaire money. and was arrested on a yacht. By the way, does anybody remember this? Speaking of yachts and Steve Bannon, remember this?
Welcome back. This is Stephen K. Bannon. We're off the coast of Saint-Tropez in southern France in the Mediterranean. We're on the $1 million yacht of Brian Kofage. And Brian Kofage, he took all that money from Build the Wall. No, we're actually in Sunland Park, New Mexico.
Turns out, yes, he meant it as a joke, and then that joke became reality. Where, yes, they did take that money, and they did run. So now, he's out there, again, admitting crimes, laughing about it, making jokes. Kofage is in prison. Bannon doing his racist show, interviewing people like Marjorie Greene. Why is he not in prison? Well, maybe that one day is coming. But let's talk about how much he owes his lawyers. According to sources, Bannon owed significant sums of money to attorneys Evan Corcoran of Baltimore and Robert Costello of New York City. They, along with David Schoen of Montgomery, Alabama, spent months battling the Department of Justice in 2021 and 2022, and they represented him at a trial in Washington, D.C. last summer when he was eventually convicted of contempt of Congress. At one point late last summer, Bannon owed Costello alone more than $100,000, according to one source directly familiar with Bannon's unpaid bills. Bannon still owes Costello apparently a ton of money, according to two other sources familiar with the situation. So now Costello had helped out Bannon for years, very, very close, by the way, helping Bannon get a pardon from former President Donald Trump, even though he was on the outs with Trump, making the Southern District of New York case go away, ran interference in the case where he decided he was not going to comply with the January 6th committee, put himself and his career in danger when federal prosecutors ended up actually secretly seizing his communications and the FBI listening in on his communications. So throughout all of that, this guy stood by Steve Bannon, defended him, filed appeal after appeal, and even after all of that, he says, "You're a sucker. I'm going to pay you. I'm going to give you the money. What are you talking about?" No, I'm just going to run away with it because it's all I care about. Now, look, I'm of two minds on this, okay? For one, I think maybe you shouldn't have got a bat for a horrible guy. Yes, I realize it's your job. Sure. But you don't have to take every case that comes your way and defend every horrible person. But the labor guy in me says, look, it is a job. You did the job for him. You should get paid. Fairly compensated. Okay? And so it's really hard to kind of reconcile those two things. That said, when it comes to the other lawyers, apparently only one of them has received any payment. Schoen clarified that at least he had been paid in full for the work that he's done. Quote, "I can tell you unequivocally that I have been paid. And the withdrawal notion has nothing to do with that, nor is it a delay tactic." So withdrawal means that all of the lawyers for Bannon have filed a motion to withdraw themselves from the case. That includes a guy who had been paid. I guess he's cutting his losses. I don't know. Last month, Schoen and Mitchell said that they could not keep working with Bannon at all and want to withdraw from the case entirely. And they cited a communications breakdown with Bannon as the reason. Justice Juan Merchant, however, ordered them to stay put until Bannon can find new attorneys. The deadline for that is originally mid-February, which we're getting pretty close. That did not seem to be going well, as just over a week ago, the judge pushed back that deadline to the end of the month. It appears that lawyers are not exactly knocking down their door, Bannon's door, to be allowed to represent him. Gee, not surprising. I don't exactly blame them. And again, not a surprise to see a person who has no problem grifting even his own supporters, Trump supporters, MAGA chuds, white nationalists, whatever, of him being just the greasiest kind of slime ball imaginable. Not surprising.
Stupid.
Okay. Let's move on to Kari Lake. They're bailing on Bannon. They're bailing Bannon as a loser. Well, loser or not, if you're getting paid, you're getting paid, right? But if your client is not paying you, then no, you're not going to stick around. Because yeah, lawyers get paid whether they win or lose. So no, they're not bailing him because Bannon's a loser. They're bailing on him because he does not pay people. Just like Trump, ironically. Weird. Former Arizona gubernatorial candidate and loser, Kari Lake, believes that elections are only fair when Republicans win.
We've got a lot of great candidates in the Republican Party, unlike the Democrat Party. They roll people out like Katie Hobbs and Joe Biden, and they expect us to believe that that's what people want, and we know people don't want that. Meanwhile, we've got great candidates on the Republican Party, and on our side, we've got so many great candidates that if our elections were really fair, I believe the ranks of Congress, the Senate, I think a White House, I think all the state governorships would be Republican if elections were fair.
There's so many great candidates. I mean, I can't really name any, but there are so many great candidates. What, like Herschel Walker? Is that what you mean?
This election is about the people.
Well, they weren't up to that. The people, I mean. Kind of went a little flaccid. Just saying. Okay, what about Dr. Oz? Also, didn't do very well. A lot of the Trump guys, people like Kari Lake, didn't win their elections. Oh, but she says, it's because they're obviously they're not fair. We're not doing fair elections here. No, that's delusional. Delusional. Now, I'm going to break down why. But first, I'm actually going to address that a substantive part of this, and there is substance, and that are elections fair? Interesting. Well, I actually don't think they are, but not for the same reason that Kari Lake thinks it is. She thinks it's you got voter fraud, you got all the people, you got the mules, 2,000 of them I hear. No, it doesn't have anything to do with fraud, voter fraud, or anything like that. No, the reason I say that elections, in America have an issue with unfairness is things like gerrymandering, which, by the way, both sides do engage in gerrymandering districts. Okay, which basically allows politicians to pick their voters instead of the voters being able to pick the politicians. And of course, there's issues of voter suppression. Things like removing access to ballot boxes, making it very difficult to vote, not allowing voter holidays, things like that. Registration deadlines, not being automatically registered to vote. Things like that. Voter ID. You also have primary contests, for example, in the Democratic Party, that are slanted towards establishment figures. How so? Well, you have right-wing billionaires that can spend, and by the way, not just right-wing billionaires, but corporations, etc., that are able to spend unlimited amounts of money to influence who the Democratic candidates ultimately are in the primary process. And so, not only that, but of course, we saw in this most recent election, Democratic groups spending tons and tons of money in Republican primaries. So you have, the influence of big money in these primary processes. Now, the difference here in that is that Democrats use that money, and it's fairly effective, to elevate the most insane Republican candidates. Now, right-wing billionaires, when they spend money in Democratic primaries, they end up elevating actually the most corporate-friendly conservative Democrats. Now, mainstream media will tell you that you have to vote for them because, well, look at the insane right-wingers. Now, in both situations, guess what? Who wins? No, big corporations, donors, status quo, mainstream media, who, by the way, is the recipient of a lot of this money from ads. So now, that said, Kari Lake, as I already mentioned, wrong. I mean, she thinks that, oh no, if elections were fair, we didn't have the Democrat voter fraud, obviously the country would vote for Republicans because the country's more conservative. Well, no, it's not. The country is not more conservative. When you break things down by issues, progressive priorities, not mainly Democratic, but progressive priorities, things that are, have been pointed out as being too left for Democrats, the Democratic Party, do really, really well. Incredibly well, in fact. Recent studies have found that more than 75% of Americans want to limit campaign spending. Right now, the DNC has voted to allow unlimited corporate cash, taking those corporate donations. A majority of Americans of all political stripes also support a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Now, Democrats will give lip service to it, but right now they haven't really done anything about that. And of course, Republicans are like, we must have more spending in elections. We must have more billionaire money. But even 66% of Republican voters say, no, I would like to overturn Citizens United. 64% of Americans support Medicare for all. That's a single-payer healthcare system. 80% of registered voters support a Green New Deal. This is according to a Yale GMU study. That includes 64% of Republicans that support a Green New Deal. Vast majority of Americans also support legalizing cannabis. Majority of Americans want workers to be on corporate boards. It's like a worker co-op model like they have in Germany. Have 12 weeks of paid medical and family leave. They want to raise taxes on rich people, corporations, allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices, to ban government officials from being able to trade individual stocks in the stock market. Those are the things that the American people across all the political spectrum, they want. Progressive policies. Now, which party is more in favor of these things? Well, look, Democrats have progressives, and these progressive members have floated these ideas. And generally, the Democratic Party does give lip service to some of these ideas. But at the same time, you don't see them do these things in a very meaningful way. And let me give you an example of this, right? So the Democratic Party says, well, we would love to do allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs. And they did. But wait, they praised this deal as the most progressive move ever. But at the end of the day, it only included 10 prescription drugs. And that's because Big Pharma came in, lobbied certain members to be against allowing more drugs to be included on this. And so you have 10. Now, insulin is one of the big ones that is involved. And by the way, for people that are taking in those 10 drugs, that's fantastic. For insulin, fantastic, great, lovely. We want to take that and we want to do more drugs, more prescription drugs. We could do so much better. Now, when it comes to Republicans, of course, none of these elected Republicans actually care about these issues. There might be some that might give some lip service on the issue, especially of prescription drugs, but it's the same kind of lip service they give to protecting Medicare and Social Security, which is very popular with the Republican base. But we've seen it in their own words, behind closed doors, and sometimes out in, public on video, saying, we're going to get rid of, we're going to sunset Medicare and Social Security. So that said, this is why Republicans are not popular, because they don't stand on any sort of popular policy at all. It's give more tax cuts for the rich. That's what Trump did. His biggest accomplishment is to, cut taxes for corporations and rich people. That's it. And so, look, they don't, by the way, they do win in a lot of places too. And Democrats aren't going out there saying, voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud. No, they do win in certain places. And you know, they've won in a lot of governorships. They've won in a lot of state houses, things like that. Generally, when it's a more establishment Republican, they have a lot of money behind them, a lot of advertising, and, you know, sometimes the Democratic candidate tends to try to run as Republican light. And, you know, when you have the choice between Republican light and a Republican, a lot of people just choose a Republican. But anyway, now, some Republicans, though, like Trump, ran as a faux populist. That's why he won in 2016. He says, I'm going to take on the establishment. Of course, it was all lies, but that's one of his messages. I'm going to take on the establishment. He also, of course, put out racist attacks against immigrants and Muslims, which many Republican voters do enjoy, by the way. But also said things like, I can't be bought. In fact, I was buying everyone else. I give them money. They did whatever the hell I wanted them to, which, of course, was to give more money to Donald Trump and his business. And so he was actually right. It's one of the more unintentional correct things that Trump had ever said. Now, Trump had also talked about single-payer healthcare before, like, he was for it, before he was against it. It was before, of course, the money came in. And, of course, was even in favor of allowing Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs, again, until Big Pharma came in and said, actually, no, you're going to do exactly what we want because you're a bitch. Oh, am I saying that they gave him the money and he did everything that they wanted him to? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. He's a faux populist. He didn't mean any of it. When he said he wanted to drain the swamp, he wanted to drain the tax money into his pockets, and that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. Now, you compare that to progressives, right? Progressives who run on populist ideas. Who won? John Fetterman, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They won their elections because they ran on progressive issues. I think in a lot of cases, not in all of them, of course. A lot of cases, though, if you get a chance to vote for progressive policy ideas, or take the politician out of it, when you have ballot measures that are progressive, raising minimum wage, that does very, very well in red states. Because, of course, yes, average working people who might be Republicans, like, yes, of course I want to raise my wages. So they're going to choose things that are more progressive because progressive policies and priorities are actually going to help regular working people. Now, so look, I know there are media pundits and politicians, you know, in the Democratic side especially, but Kari Lake's one on the Republican side who thinks, oh no, this country is very, very conservative. No, it's not. It's not. The overall point here is she has taken a very nuanced and complicated issue, and unsurprisingly saying, no, it doesn't have anything to do with that. No, just election fraud. Ridiculous. You didn't lose because of fraud. No, you lost because you're crazy. And that's it. All right. Let's move to corruption. Last week, residents of East Palestine, Ohio, were forced to evacuate after a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed. So it was a massive accident. Later on, a huge fireball. Now, it wasn't just the crash itself that had caused this fireball and toxic smoke clouds, but the spill of a chemical called vinyl chloride. Apparently, in order to get rid of vinyl chloride, they had to burn it off into the atmosphere. Oh, great. So even more, so now we've got air pollution on top of whatever spilled onto the ground, got into the soil, into the groundwater, or could have gotten in the groundwater, into the rivers and lakes, streams. Now it's in the air. So wonderful. Now, the Associated Press noted that the controlled burn of chemicals following the crash had spewed gases such as phosgene and hydrogen chloride into the air. Phosgene is a highly toxic, colorless gas with strong odor that can cause vomiting and breathing trouble, and was even used as a weapon in World War I. So that is hanging out, or was hanging out over in Ohio. One resident told the Washington Post that her family had experienced headaches and nausea in the wake of the derailment. And this gets to a greater point, had expressed concern that local officials were suppressing information about the health consequences of the crash and the release of the chemicals. I will also note that East Palestine is not a wealthy area. So you had a lot of people that really, of course, couldn't pick up and move and have the resources to do so. And so now this Republican governor, by the way, Mike DeWine, said, that's okay. Everything's good now. So you can come back home. Well, many of them, without any other options, had to do that. And these people have reported strong chemical odors, blackened streams filled with dead fish, other issues. But, I'm sure that's nothing. No to worry about, right? No, this is ridiculous. Of course there's something to worry about. Of course there's massive contamination. So now what is the company, the rail company, Norfolk Southern? What have they done about this? Nothing. Well, I can't say nothing, but actually they did worse than nothing. They actually offered the town a mere $25,000. That's a donation to help affected residents. There's 5,000 people in East Palestine, Ohio. When you break that down per person, per resident, that's $5. Oh, we had a massive, train crash. You had a, derailment. You had to leave your home, and you may have chemical related health problems for the rest of your lives. Here's $5. Slap in the face. Absolute slap in the face. And then they also claim that vinyl chloride and other substances associated with the derailment exists in the air as a vapor, and that it evaporates quickly and does not absorb into household materials. Okay, but you're still breathing that. The company also added, it is not necessary to undertake any special cleaning of household items of air, and any odors present in indoor air will dissipate. Oh, wonderful. Oh, great. Now, the Washington Post also reported that residents returning to homes in a neighboring Pennsylvania town were advised by state officials to open their windows, turn on the fans, and wipe down all the surfaces with diluted bleach. So the company says one thing, local officials say another in a completely different town, which was just located a few miles away. Great. Lovely. So here's the thing. I think it's almost certain that it's not safe to go back. But again, you have people that have no other choice. I think the rail company, of course, is lying about the safety. These are chemicals that are known to have some pretty negative health conditions, including cancer, by the way, different kinds of cancers. These are the health conditions that people are going to have to deal with for years and years to come. But of course, that's not going to come out of apparently the rail company's pockets. Oh no, of course not. No, it's going to come out of taxpayers for things like disabilities. Not only that, but it's going to come out of their own pockets for from insurance. And so government and the people who are involved, who just happen to live there, they're the ones that are going to have to face these costs, both monetary and health-wise, maybe even lose their lives as a result. While this company just gets to give what is essentially pocket change. This is a $55 billion company. So why couldn't they pay for the cleanup? Which, again, that's another thing the government has to take care of, taxpayers. And the health impacts of people that are going to have to deal with this stuff. Why don't they? Well, it's because of deregulation. And so this $25,000 donation, it is an insult. It is a slap in the face. And even worse, considering that this same company bought $10 billion worth back in their stock last March. And the other thing is, this entire thing could have been prevented. This issue was caused by brakes that were not, that were faulty. It was a mechanical error. And this brake design actually is described as being Civil War era. So they chose not to fix this issue, not to upgrade their brakes. But I guess when you don't have to really do anything and just give a donation for $25,000, you don't really have to. It gets worse, though. Federal officials had told the Lever that the train had not been regulated as a high-hazard flammable train. Considering how... That's insane, considering how it's highly flammable and hazardous. How? How did this happen? Documents show that when current transportation safety rules were first created, the federal agency had sided with industry lobbyists and limited regulations governing the transport of hazardous compounds like this one. The decision effectively exempted many trains hauling dangerous materials, including the one in Ohio, from the high hazard classification and its more stringent safety requirements. Regulators had killed provisions requiring rail cars carrying hazardous flammable materials to be equipped with electronic braking systems to stop trains more quickly than conventional air brakes. In fact, according to Norfolk Southern, their technology, electronically controlled pneumatic brakes, had the potential to reduce train stopping distances by as much as 60% over conventional air brake systems. Well, they had this technology. Why didn't they use them? Well, because they'd rather spend money on stock buybacks, executive bonuses. Stock buybacks just inflate the value of the company's stock so that they get more dividends. They get more money, the executives do. And by the way, they are allowed to do that because of the Trump administration. Stephen Dittmeyer, former senior official at the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, told The Lever, quote, would ECB brakes have reduced the severity of this accident? Yes. He added that the railroads will test new features, but once they're told they have to do it, they don't want to spend the money. They would rather spend the money, by the way, not just on stock buybacks, but on lobbying. The Biden administration, and this gets to where the lobbying has gone to. The Biden administration so far has not moved to reinstate these brake rules or expand the kind of trains subjected to tougher safety regulations, which means they're not going to reinstate the 2014 rule that was deregulated by the Trump administration. What is Pete Buttigieg doing? Nothing. This is even though a former federal safety official recently warned Congress that without the better brakes, there will be more derailments and more releases of hazardous materials. Yet, even though everyone knows this is a problem, there are no new rules, at least on increasing the safety and stringent requirements for these trains. They're not bringing back these rules. Inaction on making trains safer. Buttigieg, who heads the Department of Transportation and oversees the railroads, has said nothing about the Ohio train derailment that I know of. Now, here's a statement, though, from the FRA. We're continuing to evaluate the potential for usage of ECP brake equipment to improve railroad safety and braking performance, such as researching the potential development of other enabling technologies to support adoption, a spokesperson told The Lever. As this evaluation continues to move forward, we'll determine appropriate next steps for the agency to take. Wait, now you might think, well, you just contradicted yourself, Jeff. You just said that they're looking at rules. You just said that they weren't doing anything. What's the truth here? Well, they are looking at rules. There's at least one brake safety proposal currently under consideration by federal rail regulators. An industry-backed rule relaxing brake testing requirements. Hey, I said they weren't looking at any positive rules that would increase safety, but they are looking at deregulating. Of course they are. In 2021, in response to a petition from the Association of American Railroads, the FRA proposed amendments to existing safety standards that would reduce the frequency of brake testing on freight cars equipped with an electronic inspection tracking system. The changes under consideration are staunchly opposed by 5 major rail unions. And that's the other thing. So the rail companies are like, yes, deregulate, deregulate, deregulate. The unions are like, no, what's going on here? We can't stop. So, and look, the rail unions, by the way, they've been getting shafted in so many different ways. First, they don't have any days off. Okay? They can't take sick days. They don't have any of that. You also don't have enough personnel to run these trains. Okay? Then you've got aging infrastructure and deregulation, and the companies themselves not spending any of their money. Again, they're billion-dollar industries, multi-billion-dollar industries, to upgrade their infrastructure or to ensure that their trains are even safe to run. And then you get the derailments, you get the accidents, you get the spills. And here's the union saying, my God, we can fix this. Let's just fix it already. And yet you had the Biden administration, again, Buttigieg doing nothing in order to even bring these rules back. And then you also had the Biden administration breaking a potential strike, which also would have addressed some of these issues when it comes to rail safety. So, Biden administration, what are you doing? You're allowing these corporations, these big companies, to get away with poisoning small Ohio towns. That's what's going on here. And by the way, if this had been a wealthy area, would have been fixed immediately. Never would have happened, by the way. Yeah, as one of you points out.
Can't let that happen.
Would have been fixed. Never been an issue. But since it is a poor Ohio town, no, they let it go. And their people there are going to continue to suffer. Health issues weren't their fault. It's never going to get fixed. This is why, again, you have the corrosive influence of money in politics, lobbying, deregulation. Those are the things that are getting people killed in this country. And, you know, we have to continue to fight against it. But if the Biden administration is not going to fight against it, we have to. All right. I don't know what else to say about that. That is just it sucks. It sucks. Okay. Anyway. Let's read a super chat here. Cassandra Kapranica, thank you for the very kind $5. Appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. Gabby Mathis says, how many more are there of toxic chemicals and we are not told about? Disgusting. Oh, probably a lot. Oh, probably a lot. You know. So money wins and we lose. Absolutely. Absolutely. Isn't Ohio a red state? Why do Republicans want to eliminate their voters? Two-man Tim, these are minority voters. These are minority voters, of course. They don't care about them. Low-income minorities? Come on. Those are people that Republicans would love to get rid of. Happy New Week, Jeff and chat. Thank you, Muddy Donner. Appreciate that. Let's see. Let's go to Twitch here. Poor people have no power. 100%. Unfortunately. Espoom85, thank you for resubbing with Prime for 26 months. Dirk is a Jerk 1, resub for a month at tier 1. Appreciate that. 4 months. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Fix it. That's socialism. Yes. Because capitalism is doing a fantastic bang-up job. Yes. Yeah, which it has not. But anyway. The most exploitative standards possible. I've had this debate on other topics. If government doesn't step in to set new standards, which they won't, then they'll just stay with those standards. In this case, very old. Yeah, Civil War standards. What am I going to do? All right. Well, thank you all. Again, really appreciate it. Please like and share the stream. The videos. Check those out. Like and share those. For everybody, love you all. Have a great, great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Let's raid into watch list. Love you all. Thank you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation.
Can't let that happen. Pink-haired communist.
Disappointed!
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Oh my God! He admitted!
Sexual anarchy.
Resurrection of the people.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
USA, USA.